So I'm sure you guys have seen at this point, GameStop stock is up over 35% right now, and at one point it was up over 50%. Yeah, talk about a crazy move. So in this video, we're going to break down GameStop stock, the charts, and we're going to go over some numbers, their earnings, what are some key things standing out to me. So if y'all find value, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to get up to 17 stocks from Moomoo, link down below. We'll talk more about that later, and now let's dive into the video. So again, it was up over 50% at one point. Let me see here on the intraday chart to get an exact figure for you guys. It closed at $17.75 yesterday, and at one point in the pre-market today, it was at almost 28 bucks. So actually, it was up over 50%. It was up over 56% at one point, which is just insane. And since that point where it hit almost 28 bucks in the pre-market, it has come down to now $24. It has given back about 12-13% of that gain, but let's be honest, the bulls are still in charge, even though it's given back a decent amount of the gain. As you guys can see here, we broke above, and this is on the 4-hour chart, by the way, we broke above the 4-hour 180 SMA, we broke above the 50 SMA, and we clearly took out the highs from back in, when was this? January, February. Those highs were right around 24, 25 bucks, and mind you, now we're back under those highs. We're at 24, 28 when I'm filming this video, but when we broke out in the morning, we broke out to 28 bucks. That was clearly a breakout, and at one point we were at multi-month highs, and by the looks of it, we might be making another move back over that $25 level. And we can see here another key level of resistance for the stock, which funny enough is where we got rejected in the pre-market, is right around $28. If we zoom in a little bit right here, you guys are going to see that is where we got rejected back in really from the middle of September all throughout the beginning of December. Then we obviously dropped all the way down to 15, and we've been struggling to break out of the mid-high 20s ever since. So for that reason, I'm going to set my alert at $29. Let me do that now. Mark is at or above 29 bucks a share. We'll see where it goes from that point. So what prompted this massive move in the first place? Well, GameStop ended up reporting earnings yesterday, and they beat on EPS. They did adjusted EPS of 16 cents versus the negative 13-cent estimate, which was a surprise. And they ended up beating on revenue as well. $2.23 billion is what they did versus the $2.18 billion estimated. And we got some other key financial metrics here, some stats that, popped out to me that we'll talk about here right now. So let me actually get over to the Safari tab. Give me a second, guys. Smash that like button, by the way, if you're finding value. I appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So right here, this is actually the financials. We'll talk about these in a second, but first, let's take a look here at some key metrics from their fourth quarter, from fourth quarter 2022. So net sales came in at 2.23. We talked about that last year. They came in at 2.25. So year over year, guys, believe it or not that hard to believe, to be honest. GameStop's revenue is pretty flat. You guys can see again, 2.23 is what they just did, billion, and last year they did $2.25 billion of revenue. And the biggest thing here, guys, which contributed no doubt to their profitability this past quarter, is the selling, general, and administrative expenses, which came in at $453 million, as you guys can see, or roughly 20% of sales. That declined big time from last year, where they had $538 million of SG&A expenses, or 24% of sales. So you guys probably know, maybe not, GameStop is trying to cut back on expenses, right? They're really trying to focus on profitability at this point, and I believe they just had 2 straight quarters of profitability. You guys can see net income came in at $48.2 million compared to a net loss of $147.5 million for the prior year's fourth quarter. That's a pretty big bounce right there, guys. And inventory came in at $682.9 million at the close of the period compared to $915 million at the close of the period last year and last year's fourth quarter. That's a pretty good sign. And cash equivalents and marketable securities were $1.39 billion, as you guys can see at the close of the quarter, and long-term debt remains limited to a low interest unsecured term loan associated with the French government's response to COVID-19. I actually have to look deeper into that. I'm not too sure what that entails, but overall, guys, not too bad of a quarter for GameStop, again, they had a surprise profit, I believe the second straight profitable quarter in a row, and for the full year overview, they generated net sales of almost $6 billion, $5.92 billion to be exact for the fiscal year, and that's compared to almost actually a little bit over $6 billion for the fiscal year of 2021. So, of course, they're not really growing revenue at all. It's pretty flat year over year for the quarter and for the year in general. So they're not really growing revenue really at all. It's flat. But again, they're focusing on profitability. They're cutting back on expenses, and that is bringing up the bottom line for the company. So let's see, anything else here that is standing out to me? And I mean, you guys can see it right here, right? Set a go-forward strategic direction focused on efficiency, profitability, and pragmatic growth. And if I come over here to the financial statements, you guys are really going to see how the company has not been growing revenues at all over the past couple of years, really the past decade. In fact, revenues have been declining over the past decade. Let's take a look at this. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this. So in 2013, they did almost $8.9 billion of revenue. Now, 10 years later, not even in 2022, they barely inked out $6 billion of revenue. And you guys can see they've been declining pretty much year after year after year. But one thing I am noticing is they did increase from 2021 to 2022. You guys might see it right here. In 2021, they did $5 billion of revenue roughly. You guys may or may not see that right here, right under my face. And they did $6 billion in 2022. And if we take a look here at gross profit, that came in at roughly $1.3 billion in 2022. And that's been pretty steady. I mean, gross profit, yes, it's declined over the past decade. About a decade ago, they did $2.6 billion gross profit. But if we're looking at gross margin, it's been pretty steady between, let's say, 28% to about 30%. And okay, fine, it did dip a little bit here in the past 2-ish years. 2021 gross margin was roughly 25%. 2022, it was 22%. But it's been holding pretty steady, right around 25-30% over the past decade, as EPS, you guys can see, has been declining. They were a decently profitable company at one point throughout, let's say, 2014 to about 2020, roughly, and more like 2018. And they've been, dipping, declining in profitability ever since. EPS has been negative, and we'll see if that turns around maybe in the future here, as again, they are trying to focus more on efficiency and profitability. So that's a quick little rundown on some numbers here, guys, for GameStop, and a little overview on some key metrics from their most recent report. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you buying GameStop? Are you selling it? Are you holding it? And full disclosure, guys, I am not in GameStop. If I had to buy one of these Wall Street bet stocks at this point to take a gamble on it, I'm mostly going to be looking at Bed Bath & Beyond, which I made a video about yesterday. Go check out that video if you guys have not seen it already. That's the one that, yes, it's probably the most risky, but there's probably the most upside as well. If we do get a crazy short squeeze on that, let me actually check it. Bed Bath & Beyond right now is still at about 80 cents, roughly where it was when I made that video yesterday. It's down 1.4% right now, but we're not talking about Bed Bath & Beyond today, guys. We're looking at GameStop, which again, right now is up almost 40%, and we're at a critical point for the stock. I'm telling you guys, even though there might not be as much upside on this one as there could be on something like Bed Bath & Beyond, there could still be some upside. I mean, look, it's already up 40%, and just because it's up 40%, guys, doesn't mean it can't go up even more. This is not a typical stock here, guys. This is GameStop we're talking about. This could go up another 40% tomorrow for all we know. I'm not saying it will for sure, but it could for all we know, right, guys? And at this point, again, we're in a critical range between, let's say, $25-ish, which was the high from, January, February, and roughly $28, which was the high from September throughout the beginning of December. So we're in this range between 25 to 28 bucks. What direction are we going to pick? Are we going to break back under 24, start running back down to the teens, lower 20s, or is this going to end up breaking right through 28, plowing through 29 and starting to see another massive push. So that's why my alert's at 29 bucks, guys. We'll see what it does at that point. And with that being said, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. And don't forget to get up to 17 stocks for Moomoo, linked right down below. It is free money, guys. Once you open up an account, you get 1 free share of stock. If you deposit at least 100 bucks, you get another 4 free shares of stock, plus 2 shares of either AI or BBAI, which is limited time, guys. So right off the bat, if you deposit at least 100 bucks, you're getting 7 stocks. And listen to this, if you deposit at least 1,000 bucks, you get another 10 stocks, totaling 17 free stocks, guys. So yeah, if you want some free money, you want to help out the channel, use that Moomoo link down below. And don't forget to check out my Patreon if you want to keep up with my Patreon portfolio, you want to keep up with my charting throughout the day, my thoughts throughout the day. Everything is on Patreon, plus you get Discord access, more one-on-one access with me throughout the day. Link down below. I'll see you guys on the inside, and with that being said, peace out.